to the Room of Requirement. This is a third part of a 6-part series of the history of magic. I'm going to be talking about the medieval period this time. So let's go ahead and dive in. Kabbalah, Islamic occult sciences, angelology, and the formation of grimoires. As the classical world declined and the structures of Greece and Rome gave way to new religious and political orders, esoteric knowledge did not disappear, it withdrew, adapted, and was preserved within new cultural frameworks. Between roughly circa 500 to 1500 CE, during what is often called the medieval period, magic and esoteric thought moved from public temple and philosophical spaces into more guarded, encoded, and often concealed forms. This was not a loss of knowledge, but a transformation in how it was transmitted. Culturally, this era was shaped by the rise of Christianity in Europe, Islam across the Middle East and North Africa, and the continued development of Jewish mystical traditions. These were not spiritually empty centuries, as they are sometimes portrayed. Rather, they were a time of intense theological development, manuscript preservation, translation movements, and deep symbolic exploration. The outward structure of religion became dominant, but beneath them, esoteric systems continued to evolve, often quietly, and often within the very traditions that appeared to oppose them. One of the most important developments of this period is the rise of Kabbalah within Jewish mysticism, particularly between 1100 and 1300 CE in regions such as Spain and southern France. Kabbalah represents one of the most sophisticated esoteric systems ever developed, offering a symbolic map of the universe through the tree of life, the 10 Sephirot, and the pathways that connect them. This system is not merely philosophical, it is operational, providing a framework for understanding divine emanation, human consciousness, and the structure of reality itself. The types of magic practice within Kabbalistic traditions included permutations of divine names, letter mysticism, meditation of sacred texts, angelic invocation, and contemplative ascent through spiritual worlds. The Hebrew language itself was understood as sacred code, where each letter carried numerical and vibrational significance. This practice, known as gematria, allowed practitioners to uncover hidden meanings within Scripture. Here, we see a continuation of the ancient principle that language, when understood correctly, is the key to power. In everyday life, these practices were not always performed as overt ritual magic, but they deeply shaped spiritual understanding. Prayer, study, and contemplation were infused with esoteric meaning. The practitioner was not separate from the system, they lived within it, interpreting reality through symbolic correspondence. Today, nearly all Western ceremonial magic systems, especially those influenced by the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn, are built directly upon Kabbalistic structure. Without Kabbalah, there would be no tree of life as we use it today, no structured path-working systems, and no coherent map linking the divine, the psychological, and the material. At the same time, in the Islamic world, particularly during the Islamic Golden Age, circa 800 to 1200 CE, esoteric sciences flourished in ways that are often overlooked in modern discussions. Scholars translated Greek, Egyptian, and Persian texts into Arabic, preserving and expanding upon earlier knowledge. Figures such as Al-Kindi and Al-Farabi contributed to philosophy and metaphysics, while others developed systems of astrology, alchemy, and talismanic magic. One of the most significant texts to emerge from this period is the Picatrix, originally Hayat al-Hakim, circa 10th to 11th century, a comprehensive manual of astrological and talismanic magic. The Picatrix outlines how to harness planetary forces, construct talismans, perform invocations, and align ritual work with celestial timing. This represents a direct continuation of Babylonian and Hermetic astrology, but now formalized into practical instruction. The types of magic practiced in the Islamic esoteric world included astrological magic, talisman creation, numerical correspondences, invocation of spiritual intelligences, and alchemical transformation. These practices were often tied to scholarly disciplines, meaning they were studied alongside mathematics, astronomy, and medicine. In daily life, astrology guided decisions, talismans were used for protection or influence, and spiritual practices were integrated into broader religious devotion. Much of what modern practitioners call planetary magic, working with specific days, hours, correspondences, and celestial timing, comes directly from these medieval Islamic sources. Without this period, the continuity of astrological magic from antiquity into modern ceremonial systems would have been broken. In Christian Europe, the situation was more complex. Officially, the Church often condemned forms of magic, particularly those associated with paganism or perceived heresy. However, this did not eliminate esoteric practice. It drove it into more coded and symbolic forms. Monasteries became centers of manuscript preservation, copying not only biblical texts but also works on philosophy, medicine, and occasionally occult subjects. During this time, we begin to see the early formation of what would later be known as grimoires, manuals of ritual magic containing instructions for summoning spirits, invoking angels, creating talismans, and performing ceremonial operations. Though many surviving grimoires date slightly later, their roots lie in the medieval synthesis of Jewish mysticism, Christian theology, and earlier Hermetic and Arabic sources. The types of magic developing here include angelic magic, spirit invocation, protective circles, ritual purification, and structured ceremonial operations. These practices were not part of everyday public life, but they existed within smaller circles, but they existed within smaller circles of practitioners, often clergy, scholars, or individuals with access to rare texts. The language of these rituals frequently drew upon Hebrew divine names, Christian symbolism, and astrological timing, showing a clear blending of traditions. Angelology, which is the study of angels, also becomes highly developed during this period. Systems of angels associated with planets, directions, and divine attributes were studied and invoked. This continues the ancient pattern seen in both Mesopotamia and Egypt, the understanding that intermediary intelligences exist between the human and the divine. Today, much of angelic magic, including the use of divine names and hierarchical systems of spirits, comes directly from these medieval developments. Culturally, this era was marked by strong religious authority, but also by deep curiosity about the nature of the divine, the structure of creation, and humanity's place within it. While the average person engaged primarily with formal religion, the esoteric practitioner sought deeper understanding through hidden systems. Magic in this period becomes more initiatory and selective, not because it ceased to exist, but because access to it became restricted. This restriction had a profound effect. It led to the development of coded language, symbolic writing, and layered texts, methods of preserving knowledge while protecting it from misuse or persecution. This is why many esoteric texts from this period appear obscure or complex. They were not meant for casual reading. They were keys, requiring preparation and understanding to unlock. Despite this concealment, the continuity of esoteric knowledge remained intact. The core principles established in earlier eras, correspondences, divine names, celestial influences, ritual structure, and initiatory progression, were preserved, refined, and transmitted. Without the medieval world, these teachings would not have survived into the Renaissance, where they would re-emerge more openly. What we practice today in ceremonial magic, astrology, Kabbalah, and even structured spiritual systems is deeply rooted in this period. The use of circles, invocations, divine names, planetary timing, and symbolic frameworks all trace back to these medieval syntheses. The Grimoires, the angelic hierarchies, the tree of life, these are not modern inventions, they are inheritances. Thus, the medieval period represents not a dark age of lost knowledge, but a hidden age of preservation. Magic did not vanish, it went underground, encoded in text, safeguarded by scholars, and carried forward through those willing to seek it. It is here that esotericism becomes what is often known as today, not merely sacred knowledge, but hidden knowledge. As Europe begins to emerge from the medieval period and enters the Renaissance, these preserved teachings will resurface with renewed force. Ancient Greek philosophy, Hermetic texts, Kabbalah, and astrological magic will be rediscovered, translated, and expanded. What was once hidden will become studied again, giving rise to one of the most important revivals of esoteric knowledge in history. Okay, you guys, that's all I have for you. Next will be the Renaissance era, which is my absolute favorite. Medieval and Renaissance is my favorite time period. Thank you guys for being interested in my content. I hope you guys are enjoying this so far, and I will see you guys next time. Bye.